fucking.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. I am Alicia from Cole Square, UK Marketing Manager, and I'll be moderating the session today. And today it's a big topic. We're talking about the new LHF policy that went live in the UK on the 5th of January, and what that means in practice for brands and agencies, especially when it comes to social and influencer marketing, is what we'll uncover today. So this is how we'll spend the next 30 minutes. We'll go straight into the interview with Scott Guthrie, Director General from the Influencer Marketing Trade Body, to keep things really tactile and focused before we open it up for a live Q&A, and then wrap up with some of the key takeaways. So this session is really designed to be very practical, not legal heavy. So please do share questions as we go along. Very briefly on CoSquare for everyone that's new here, we're an influencer marketing platform working with over 1,000 brands across 30 countries with a really strong focus on responsible and compliant creator marketing. So responsible influence is a big part of why we wanted to host this conversation today. Let's jump straight into it. Scott, hello. Do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, with pleasure. Thank you, Alicia, and hello, everybody. I am, well, as the name and the handsome picture shows, I'm the Director General of the Influencer Marketing Trade Body. We are the champion of the creator marketing economy in the UK. And importantly, we're members of CAP, the UK's ad regulating rule-making body. We're first new members of CAP in a decade. And so it's CAP working with the government that have introduced these new rules and regulations around less healthy foods.
Amazing, thank you. Let's jump in to level set for everyone here. Could you explain in basically simple terms what the new LHF policy actually says and what has changed compared to before?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to start off with a caveat. I hope you don't mind too much, but this guidance is just that. It's guidance and should be considered, should not be considered as legal advice. It's offered in good faith and reflects IMTB's understanding of the rules of the regulations, but it doesn't bind IMTB. If you go to our website, imtb.org.uk/LHF, we've got a useful page with lots of frequently asked questions there. And importantly, we link back to the ASA's related guidance and secondary guidance on less healthy foods. I think there's also, sorry for the caveat, I think there's also an important distinction to be made between less healthy foods and high fat, sugar and salt. Ad restrictions for high fat, sugar and salt products, they've been in place since July 2017. Ad regulations or restrictions around less healthy foods, they came into effect on the 5th of this month. LHF is a new classification for food and drink products. It's a subcategory of high fat, sugar and salts. A food or drink product is considered less healthy if both of the following factors are considered or apply. That the product is classified as HFSS because it's identified through using the nutrient profiling. I won't go into what the nutrient profiling is, but really it compares energy, saturated fat, total sugar, sodium, fruit, vegetables, all that sort of stuff. That is mandated from the Department of Health. You can find a link to that on our website. So that's important. That's trigger one. Trigger two, that the product falls within one of the 13 product categories. Again, I'm not going to list all the 13 categories. Go to our website, looking under the frequently asked questions, and then you can link through to that. So that was a long run up to your question, Alicia. But in simple terms, the new less healthy foods ad restrictions mean a few things. So we've been, since the 1st of October, we've been operating, the industry has been operating under a voluntary agreement to, since the 5th of January, it's a regulatory understanding or undertaking. The ads for identifiable, less healthy food and drink products are banned from appearing on the television between 5:30 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. They're banned from on-demand program services between 5:30 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. And crucially to this audience, ads are banned from appearing in paid online media at any time, day or night, whatever time of the year. And that includes influencer marketing.
Amazing. Thank you for explaining that in super simple.
It's a lot, but in short, influencer marketing, if your product is identified as a less than healthy food product and you're an influencer marketer, really understand the restrictions around product and around brand. And I'm sure we'll come on to that a little bit in the course.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the follow-up question for that is, when brands hear the word ban, there's often panic, right? Can you kind of talk us through what is clearly prohibited versus what is allowed under these new rules?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think it's probably wise to sort of back up and say that these rules and regulations were brought in to help fight a child obesity endemic. So there are good reasons for why these rules and regulations have been brought in, been under consultation for a long time. But when we hear the ban, what do we think? Well, as just forecast or just forewarned, online ads for identifiable less healthy foods, that is now under restriction, and that includes influencer marketing. It's likely to include gifting, but not always. It depends on how that. It depends on the understanding of the ASA and whether that product was gifted in order for the influencer to produce content. So it's a little bit nuanced, and I urge you to go into the guidance just to really understand that around. But in essence, influencer marketing is now under the restriction, and that is likely to include influencer marketing. As the ban covers all online ads for identifiable less healthy food and drink, creators with their own Substack should also note that paid for newsletter advertising like banner ads, this would fall under the LHF ad restrictions too. What's still allowed? Brand advertising is still allowed. Ads promoting food and drink brands, including the brand of a range of products, are not subject to the restrictions, provided that the ad does not depict a specific less than healthy food or product. So again, look at the guidance and the link through on our web resource page around how the ASA understands brand advertising in this restriction, and creators working with brands to create marketing communications which appear on the brand's own website or the brand's own social media channels where there's no payment in place for the advertising. So you can work with a creator, and the creator can create content, and that appears on the brand's own website or the brand's own social media channels, as long as you're not paying it to be promoted or paying for it to be produced, boosted, then that would be restricted. You can also work with creators in other channels not covered by the ban, for example, out-of-home advertising, cinema advertising, audio-only podcasts as well.
Great, that's very useful, just to kind of draw the lines and see where the gray areas are. And I actually saw in my research in this, I saw that Chile actually were the pioneers in creating this law of food labeling and advertising back in 2016 to combat the same things that this law in the UK is trying to combat as well, which is the childhood obesity, which is very interesting. 10 years later, it finally arrives in the UK.
Well, you've got to be a bit careful there, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not an historian on regulation points, but we have had high fat, sugar, and salt
Yes.
restrictions around promoting to children since July 2017. So not the first, but has been in play for almost a decade. And that's why I was keen at the top to make that differentiation that LHF is a subcategory of high fat, sugar and salt.
There we go. Thank you for cleaning that up. Cool. So again, next question. How does this policy specifically impact social media and influencer marketing, and in comparison to other paid channels?
Yeah, it's a great question. The ban applies to all online ad formats. That includes, as we've said, the social media advertising, and that includes in-feed advertising on social media. Also includes search listings such as sponsored links on search engines. We've covered that it covers creator marketing or influencer marketing. If that post is going to be displayed on the influencer's platform as opposed to the brand's own platform. And we've also touched on an earlier question that paid for newsletter advertising like banner ads would be out if that banner ad is for a restricted food.
Great, thank you.
And just to overemphasize, possibly overemphasize, but the exemptions are for the only exemptions for these online ads would be if it was a digital out of home, or if it was be an audio only podcast.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question: How should food and drink brands, as well as even agencies with food and drink clients, think about the paid amplification of creator content versus organic creator posts?
Yeah, another great question. I think firstly, brands and agencies should determine whether the food or the drink they have in mind is considered as a less healthy food. That goes back to the trigger we talked about in the double trigger that we talked about in question 1. Is it a restricted food? If so, proceed with caution. You can't, if you can't specify the product, if it is, you could talk about it in terms of a brand advertising point of view. So that's the first bit. The second bit, if you're thinking about paid amplification, well then stop. You can't, under the new restrictions, you can't put in place paid amplification for any online ads that depict a restricted food product.
Okay. Understood. And with that, how, from a marketer's point of view, how do you think brands and agencies should move forward about kind of longer term or more always on approach to creator partnerships under these new rules?
Yeah, again, as I said at the top, I don't. First of all, I don't want to be the doomsayer. This is regulation that's been imposed upon us. This is not something that we've reacted for and advocated for. But we also should remember that these new restrictions have an important intention, and that's to support the fight against childhood obesity. So it comes with good intention. Also, as responsible marketers, we should operate within the spirit of the regulation, not just the wording of that regulation. But I think there are still plenty of ways in which brands and creators can work together on long-term or always-on partnerships. When you're online, promote the brand, don't promote the specific product, and cut across media channels. So creator collabs, they could refer to the food range, which includes a less healthy food and a less healthy food variant without showing the products. Creators could depict ingredients, or they could work with the brand to run sustainability or CSR focused ads. Creators and brands can think laterally about the working relationship and lean, as I say, into the brand building process rather than the specific product. They could work with brands and create content which is housed on the brand's own website or social media channels. They can become the face of the product, which then is carried on through different channels, through out of home, for example, through audio podcasts, but also through cinema advertising, that's exempt, through magazine advertising, that's exempt, but also through live events as well. So, there are a few ways in which to continue to work with each other.
Great, yeah, and I guess speaking, there are a lot of agencies on this webinar right now, and I kind of want to ask a question on behalf of them, as well. Myself being being part of an agency before CoSquare, I'd love to know how you would advise agencies when they're advising their clients when it's unclear whether a product is LHF identifiable. Do you have any tips and tricks or advice?
Well, I think sadly it goes back to that original question, doesn't it? And is it high fat, sugar, and salt? And then in terms of the nutrient profiling, and then is it listed on one of those 13 categories under the Department of Health? So that is sadly what you've got to do to identify. So there's a bit of leg room that you have to undertake to identify it. The test to determine whether an advertisement is covered by the restrictions is set out in law states that a less healthy product is identifiable in relation to an ad if persons in the UK could reasonably be expected to be able to identify the ad as being that product. So, there are two things. Is it, do you know whether it is a high fat, sugar, or salt product? If you're unsure, go back to understanding the criteria for that double trigger. And then secondly, what does it mean to be identifiable? That, in layman's terms, that means if someone from the UK could reasonably work out from watching that ad or from reading the ad, could they identify that it's for a specific product?
Right. Okay. So now that we've kind of determined what you can't do, do you see, or what are the biggest gray areas you're seeing right now when it comes to social media and creator marketing? For example, like with things like gifting or even content created before the 5th of January.
So, yeah, a couple of points. I don't think there are, well, hopefully those gray areas are being removed. I think from people that have been in legacy sort of advertising or in other channels, this is not a new restriction to them because they've been working on it, or it's been coming down the pipe for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. As a fast developing and a fast professionalizing channel, creator marketing is relatively new, and so it hasn't been party to all of these conversations for the last 5, 6 years. So that's why it might necessarily be new. There shouldn't be necessarily grey areas. I think that the ASA would like influencer marketers that work with gifting initiatives to tread very carefully. That is laid out in the guidance, and in essence, they're saying, can you demonstrate that you are not putting a condition on the creator to produce content and to post content? If you can demonstrate that there isn't that connection, there isn't a contract there, and there are other areas that are there, then gifting may be allowed. But really understand the guidance around that point. But you also raise an interesting one about ads in the past. So if an ad was created, let's say 6 months ago, and that was fine under existing regulations, it couldn't be rerun now with the excuse of, well, we created it in the summer of last year. Ads that are live of today have to be have to bear in mind the less healthy food ad restrictions.
Got it. Okay, that's clear. And with regards to, you mentioned contracts, creator contracts, are there specific safeguards you'd recommend brands or agencies build into these creator contracts?
No, it's a great question. Under gifting, there shouldn't be any contract because it's a double trigger. One, is there any consideration, i.e., has money changed hands, or anything else that can be seen into consideration, such as a product or a service. So the ASA would consider a product to be a consideration. So that's
Right.
trigger one. Trigger two is there something in place which stipulates that the creator should produce some content based on that. And so if both triggers are met, then that would be identified as advertisement, and the brand having control over the advertisement, and that would be a banned or restricted advertising practice. If there isn't a contract in place, then it becomes more of a grey area. So I would encourage your viewers to really reread the bit of the guidance around gifting and influencer marketing.
Got it. Right. Understood. Thank you for that. That brings me to my last question before we get into the live Q&A. If you could give only one piece of advice to marketers navigating the LHF policies for the first time, what would it be on your side?
Well, it's a self-plug, but only because it links out to really helpful other areas. So go to our website, go to the imtb.org.uk/LHF or hit the tab resources. It's the number one there. That's got a lot of frequently asked questions, and it's got it links out to the ASA's guidance and secondary guidance. That's the first bit. You asked for one bit of advice. I'll give you two bits of advice. Take it seriously, because no doubt there'll be well-meaning charities, and well, first of all, it's the right thing to do, to protect the young and the vulnerable. Secondly, there'll be a lot of NGOs and charities watching this space, and with the intention of raising criticisms or levying a complaint against brands that don't comply. So make sure that you are cognizant of what the new rules and regulations are.
Amazing. Thank you, Scott. That's all really helpful. We'll now open it up to the questions from the audience. So please type them out and write them below. We have a few already that's come in here. I'll read this one out. Someone's asked, does this ban include brands outside of the food industry, including LHF foods in social content? Someone says, we work with property brands and work with influencers to visit hotspots in areas local to developments, including bakeries, restaurants, etc. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you can see the product and it is one of those 13, it's within those 13 categories, then it would be a product. So it's a good question, but yeah, I would advise you to look at not the first trigger, as in is it a high fat, sugar and salt, but is it on the 13, one of the 13 categories?
Got it. Okay. The questions are coming in still. Someone said, you mentioned previously there's a difference between a brand collaborating with a creator to make content. One second. To make content for a product, and this being posted on the brand's social channel versus the creators. Which option is okay under these new rules?
So the first bit, yeah. So a creator can.
I'll read it again. Yeah, you mentioned previously there's a difference between a brand collaborating with a creator to make content for a product, and this being posted on the brand's social channel versus the creators. Which option is okay under these new rules?
Okay, so a creator can work with a brand and to create content for the brand. Mm-hmm. The brand, but what they can't do is place, the influencer or the creator can't place that ad on their own social media channel. It can be placed on the brand's social media channel. It can be placed on the brand's website. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does. So I think, to reiterate, I think the brand, what you're trying to say is the brand owned channels generally okay if they're handled carefully, and the creator owned channels, it's not allowed if it's paid or incentivized.
So you can work with a creator for creativity and content. What you can't work with a creator for is creativity, content, and distribution. I think that's the essence. But what the brand can't do is so you can post on the brand's own channels and the brand's own website. Yeah. What you can't do is then pay for it to be promoted or amplified, because that would be an online advertisement.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. The next question someone's asked is, for non-monetary influencer collaborations, for example, a complimentary restaurant visit, what happens if we brief the influencer on the LHF regulations, but they still choose to record and post LHFs? Does the responsibility fall on them or the brand, or do we need to ask them to remove the content?
Again, that's a great question, and it's covered in our frequently asked questions on our web resources. Technically, the brand would be responsible as well as the creator. It depends on what has been put in place, and we talked about that in terms of the contract. What does the contract say, or what does it not say? So I think a brand should protect itself by having stipulations in terms of any takedown requirements and what it has in regard to the posting of less healthy foods.
There we go. And I think, yeah, to iterate what you said, from my understanding, where the responsibility sits primarily, right, with the brand, not the creator. So like briefing alone isn't sufficient enough. Yeah, I think if an influencer posts less healthy foods content following a complimentary visit, the brand is expected to act. So it's responsibility on both.
Yeah.
Great. Someone says, hello, do the new UK LFH rules affect alcoholic beverages, or are all alcoholic beverages above 1.2% of the category exclusion list?
This is a technical question, and I'm not qualified to give specific or categoric answer to that. But again, it depends on where that food or drink, if it appears on one of the 13 categories as listed by the Department of Health.
Awesome.
So just the fact that it's alcoholic does not necessarily mean that it is a less than healthy food. It would depend on how much sugar content there is within that alcohol.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And of course, there are obviously advertising restrictions around promotion of alcohol as well. So but it sounds as though it might well be separate rather than the same as the less healthy food.
Great. Understood. And then we just have time for one more question here. Someone's asked, if a piece of creator content is compliant organically, what changes when a brand boosts it with paid spend?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the original, what is covered under the restrictions. These are all great questions, and a lot of them have been thought through before, but a lot of them also are kind of new and sort of thinking about them. So this is very, very helpful for me. Hopefully this webinar has been helpful for the participants as well. The restrictions cover online advertising. So if it's organic, then it's opinion, it's editorial. If there's paid spend behind it, then it becomes an advertisement. I think that is the difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as clear as that. Well, that brings us.
So that goes back to and that it's a potential not grey area, but really understand what the rules, the guidelines are around gifting as well. So yeah, and whether there is a relationship, an ongoing relationship between a brand and a creator, to say what really is organic. So if you've done work with them in the past, recent past, then that might not be considered organic, even if the creator hasn't been paid for this specific campaign or initiative. So think about, is there an existing ongoing relationship, or would the regulator think that? Is it really organic? But if it really is organic, then it's not part of this ad restriction. If it's boosted or promoted, then it does become part of the ad restrictions.
Got it. Okay. So think in terms of their own context kind of thing in history with the creator. Understood. That brings us to the end of the session. Scott, thank you again for joining us and making a super complex topic much clearer. And thank you to everyone who's joined as well. We'll be sharing the recording and the follow-up resources mentioned by Scott and myself shortly. But I wish you all a great day. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.